How many plays did they have to go through to get to that one? You know, how many Ben Johnson over here? No. Nope. Tight end screen. Nope. A run? Nah. Run playbook over the shoulder. Oh, trick plays. Haven't thought about that yet. You know, we're down by 10. This is a great time to run it. We could get back in this game right now, but I tell you what, we're going to do a play where if we risk it all, we lose the game completely. But if we get it, then we could still have the same odds as if we just did a run play with Jahmyr Gibbs. Welcome in, Sports Bluff family. I'm your host, Ryan, alongside Tristan, and Divisional weekend is over. If you guys ever wonder why we're fans of Kansas City and Buffalo, it's because we like to periodically win. You know, that's the only reason we really chose these teams, in case you were wondering. We like winning, and oh boy, did it happen this weekend. I know we have a lot to talk about tonight. What's your kind of overarching takeaway from this weekend? And I know we'll get more in depth, but is there anything kind of broad view that you want to say about this divisional weekend?
Another thing that you look up on is when the Chiefs uniforms look like Alabama. So when you're young, you're like, I like them. They're red. And then they end up being good finally. So here's the thing. Divisional weekend, a lot of people say, is the best weekend of the NFL season. It lived up to the hype. It was fantastic. Every game was really good. I mean, really, like there was drama, there were storylines in every game. I'm sad it's getting down to the end of the season. I'm sad that it's almost over, but I'm really excited to see where it goes. And obviously we're going to get into it. But if anyone's new to this podcast, first off, thanks for being here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to grow, trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before next season. We are doing content throughout the entire offseason. We never quit. Two idiots covering one sport. And the funny thing here is you're a Bills fan. I'm a Chiefs fan. Both teams have had success recently. That's great. But I was driving around today and I was thinking one of our teams is going to the Super Bowl.
That's crazy. Point. But again, the year I don't want to say we never would have thought that would happen because it's the Bills and the Chiefs. More so, it's the Chiefs, and they find themselves in situations like this quite often. But I have to ask, do you often drive around just thinking about football? Because I do.
Oh, it's almost exclusively what I think about when driving. It really takes up so much space in my mind. Not because I have to, just because I enjoy it. It's such a great sport. But me and you, people, like, it's not a shtick. We have been football addicts. I mean, as long as I can remember you coming over to my house in 6th grade and watching football. Playing football. That was just what we did.
It is. Well, look, we're not driving tonight, but we still get to sit down and talk some good football.
Let's do it.
The Buffalo Bills have defeated the Baltimore Ravens 27-25 in what really was a pretty kind of offset game. It wasn't down to the wire. I know the score looks really close, but I do feel like the Bills kind of controlled the game. We'll talk more about the Bills in just a second, get kind of into the weeds with them a little bit. But what we talked about last weekend, we alluded to it, was that Lamar Jackson has a tendency to choke in the playoffs. The narrative's not going away anytime soon. He fumbled the ball twice. Or no, he turned it over once, and then it was an interception the other time, right?
Interception and a fumble, yep.
So my question to you that I pose to you is Lamar to blame for this loss totally?
He is not totally to blame, but he does shoulder a lot of the blame.
75%?
Yeah, 65. Here's the thing. Normally we record on Sunday. We're recording on Monday night. I'm actually glad we're recording Monday night because of this. Because I've heard so many people start to excuse Lamar's playoff performance and be like,
well, they do it all the time.
He wasn't really that bad. He's been worse. They didn't lose this time because of him. Ryan, I don't understand. Why are so many people trying so hard to make excuses for him? I don't get it. I really don't. And maybe it's because he was so unfairly treated at the beginning of his career, which was true. That he was unfairly treated and acted like he couldn't be a quarterback, acted like he was just an athlete. I get that. It's like they feel like they have to make up for it.
Or his mom has called around and threatened everybody.
Could be. But here's the thing. The Lamar choking in the playoff is not a fake narrative. And if anyone watched that game, like I think it was Ryan Clark tweet out, he was like, that one's not on you, you did everything you could do. It's like, the 2 turnovers are on you, buddy. Ryan,
the worst interception.
That's what I was going to say. That interception is one of the worst playoff interceptions you'll ever see. I went and watched the All-22. He just sailed it. He just absolutely sailed it to nowhere, to the corner, instead of the little corner route. It was awful interception. The fumble was just as bad. Lamar was horrible in the first half. Now, I will give him credit. He did not let that deter him. He was fantastic in the second half. It wasn't a full-blown collapse. But the turnovers, when you lose by just a couple points, by 2 points, those turnovers end up being the difference in the football game. And we just have to accept that he is a great regular season quarterback. He is not the same in the playoffs. 4 of his 8 playoff games, Ryan, he has had 2 or more turnovers. That's a problem. He consistently has his worst game of the season in the playoffs. There's other people to blame, and I can get to them, but absolutely, he shoulders a large responsibility to blame. It is not all on him because he fought back, he played good in the second half, but the 2 turnovers and the way he played in the first half, it was typical Lamar playoff performance. And to anyone that is acting like he did everything he could and he didn't let the team down in any way, they're just being dishonest. Because even that 2-point play where everyone's on Mark Andrews, that wasn't a good throw. He double clutched it. Instead of just letting it rip right off the bat, he kind of hesitated and then threw it. And, Mark Andrews still should have called it. I'm not excusing it, but it wasn't even a good throw. He didn't put that ball where he needed to be. So, yeah, a lot of this loss is on him. Not all of it, and I'll talk about the other ones in a second, but absolutely.
I couldn't agree with you more. And we've talked about this, and we even said it last week that this is what everybody should be watching for, is the Lamar choke session. It did happen. Now, I'll give you, he did rebound himself a little bit in the second half, like you said. He did put on a really good performance, kept the game pretty close where the Bills couldn't let off. Something I'm proud about the Bills is they didn't let off. I'm very thrilled about that, and they made smart decisions to get points on the board, and we'll talk about that in a second, points that actually saved them the football game in the long run. But Lamar, and we talked about not really looking at the playoff picture. You're not really supposed to account for that when you're talking about the MVP performance. And to some degree, I would agree. But in this case, it's like, guys, we've got a problem here. Like, there is a big issue with Lamar in the playoffs. And it's happened to other quarterbacks before, but this one, man, it's been year in and year out, it seems.
Absolutely. And one of the comps that people are throwing, which is fair, is Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was the same way. He was terrific in the regular season and kind of bad. Really, if you look at his numbers, bad in the playoffs. I think it took him like 8 or 9 years to win a Super Bowl. And even then, it's not like he was tremendous on that Super Bowl run in the playoffs, but he was great in the regular season and put them in that position, which Lamar has been great in the regular season. But to just excuse it away as if it doesn't exist or because he played a good second half, Ryan, if that interception he threw looked like a Joe Flacco interception, I couldn't fathom when that happened that a top 5 quarterback in the league would throw that in a playoff game. It was baffling. Now, with that said, I agree with you about the MVP. This is why we should wait till at least after the divisional round, if not the conference championship, to vote on MVPs, because it's going to be hilarious that Lamar is going to win his 3rd MVP instead of Josh Allen, and Josh Allen beat him in that game because they didn't make mistakes, and we'll get into Buffalo. Just to pivot a little bit, it's not all on Lamar, because I do think it was kind of a poorly coached game. And when we talk about Buffalo, I'll get into their side, but I just don't think Harbaugh coached the game well. I think he was outcoached by Sean McDermott. Derrick Henry only got like 7 or 8 touches in the first half. And I know the Bills were doing a good job shutting down the run in the first half, but you have to give him more touches. That is the whole reason you went and signed him. I've seen a lot of people say that they weren't bothered by it like they were last year. It's not as egregious as last year, but it's still a problem. They passed the ball way too often. There was one time where they had 2nd and goal, and they threw it and ended up having to settle for a field goal. The 2-point attempt, it was drawn up right, but there were multiple times where they just didn't lean on Henry enough. I thought the whole point of getting him was to lean on him. And even Justice Hill, there just weren't enough touches to the running backs. Derrick Henry got 16 carries. Justice Hill got 6. Saquon Barkley in his game got like 26. I'm going into that game wanting Henry to get 22 or more carries. So I wonder if Baltimore hits a point to where they start to question their relationship with Harbaugh. He's a very good coach. I like John Harbaugh, but this is multiple times where not just Lamar, but the Baltimore Ravens shoot themselves in the foot in the playoffs. Yes, Lamar was bad in the first half, great in the second half. Mark Andrews fumbles the ball and then drops the 2-point attempt. The defense, they don't put it all together. And in the biggest moments, it feels like they make mistakes when other teams don't. Ultimately, that has to fall on someone. I'm not calling for someone's job, but I think it was clear watching that game that Harbaugh got outcoached. Well, the Buffalo Bills are going to the AFC Championship. They've got a date with Kansas City. The winner goes to the Super Bowl. We will preview that game later in the show. First, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're enjoying your time here, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before next season kicks off. Ryan, you're a Buffalo's Bills fan. We talked about them, about the season, about the impressive season they've had. I want to ask you, because it was not a typical Buffalo Bills performance. I'll let you go, and then I'll see where you take it. Did the Bills impress you with this performance? Not just by winning the game, obviously, you're happy that happens. Yeah. Were you impressed by how they performed on the field?
Yeah, it really was, because, week 3, I believe it was, when Baltimore came in and made us look like fools on the field. Josh Allen had said at the end of the game last week that they were watching film, lots of film on Lamar and the Ravens. And it really showed, I think, because you had said that this wasn't a typical Buffalo game, and the point you were really making of that is like Josh Allen, and you said it over text to me this weekend, he didn't really have to try.
No.
There was no point where Josh Allen had to put the team on his back and go and win a football game. Everything worked. The run game worked. Josh could scramble. He didn't do it much, but when he needed to, he could. The passing was just open. Like, he could just make the throws. Everything for the Bills in that game worked. But one thing I want to highlight, and it's what I actually said last weekend, was the key to success in this football game. Contain Henry to less than 100 yards. Tristan, he had this week 84 yards. In the week that they beat us, week 3, he had 199 yards. So my whole point to this, and we talked about this actually weeks ago, not just even last week, but we said games where Derrick Henry doesn't eclipse 100 yards, they don't win. They just don't. And that happened. So I was watching for that all game. You had said in the last segment, check that out if you guys want to, we talked about Lamar, but you had said that Derrick Henry wasn't utilized enough. It's like you pay this guy a lot of money to come and play, and then you give him like the ball 5 times, and you just give up on the run. So I think that was to a detriment to the Ravens, right? Like that cost them some of the game, was not committing to the run.
Agree.
But Buffalo did a really good job early at shutting it down.
Well, yeah, Buffalo, and I think that's what happened. I think Buffalo shutting down the run in the first half caused Baltimore to get scared and go away from it. That's why Henry only had 7 touches in the first half.
So the biggest thing I'm impressed about is not even the offense, because like you said, and I agree, it was pretty neutral. It was kind of like cruise control offense for the Bills, which we don't get to play often. So I really like when that happens. But I'm really impressed by this defense. And the guy that I'm most impressed by is Milano. He changes the entire football team whenever he's out in the field.
Absolutely. And he wasn't there in their first matchup.
He was not, but he was this time. And he was all over the field. His name was called at least probably more times than Derrick Henry got the ball, okay?
Yeah.
And he makes a huge difference. When he is on this team, he is the centerpiece of this defense. And we play so much better with him. This defense is the number one thing I'm most impressed by. It was a whole nother level of defense. I know the score is a lot closer because of that drive at the end by Lamar that was actually fantastic for him. But I think the game, and anybody would probably agree if they watched it, was controlled by Buffalo, and the defense was a huge part of that.
Buffalo did control the football game, both defense and offensively. When you look at the stats, so first let's pull up this box score, and then I'll make my point off that and elaborate. If you look at the box score, you're like, oh, okay, it's not that different. Ravens, 240 pass yards to Buffalo's 126, 176 rush yards to Buffalo 147, 7 for 10 on third down, 5 for 11 for Buffalo, 2 for 3 in the red zone for Baltimore, 3 for 4 for Buffalo. The difference, obviously, right there, 3 turnovers for Baltimore, 0 for the Bills. Other than that, the stats are pretty much identical, Ryan. But what I really got out of this football game is what we've been clamoring for ever since we had this podcast for years. First off, it was a masterclass by Sean McDermott. It really was. The doubts I've had of him in the past, which we've both had, because I just wondered if they were going to be able to get over the hump without an offensive mind. Thankfully, they have Joe Brady, who has balanced the offense. But this is Buffalo doing what we've been begging, not asking Josh Allen to put the cape on. He could have, but he didn't have to because they had a consistent run game. James Cook had 17 touches for 67 yards. Josh Allen only threw the ball 22 times. They just controlled the football game. And once they got ahead early, it was just kind of ball control. And it was just kind of not make mistakes. Their drives, first half, touchdown, punt, touchdown, touchdown. Second half, a little tougher. Punt, punt, but then you get a field goal and a field goal. And it was just, they did enough. They did what they needed to do. The defense made plays. They got the fumble, the scoop from Lamar. They got the pick. They forced the fumble on Mark Andrews. They did what they needed to do. And this is the Buffalo team I've been wanting to see for years. I know you felt the same way. Asking your quarterback to put the cape on in the moment that is necessary, but not the whole game. Josh Allen just had to control and be a game manager, and Buffalo just let Baltimore shoot themselves in the foot, and Sean McDermott went in there with the perfect game plan. This is the Buffalo team I've been begging to see. Chef's kiss. I think this is the most impressive performance from McDermott's career.
I couldn't agree more. And Josh Allen's, one of his best performances would be this game because of how well he controlled it. He didn't make the stupid mistakes. He did not get flustered. He was so even-keeled, And if there was ever a team to take it further, this, I believe, would be that team. The field goal, though, you had mentioned 2 field goals. The field goal, when they could have gone for it on 4th down, and maybe would have gotten it, but if they didn't, then we're looking at a chance for the Ravens to actually win this game. It no longer is a 2 or 1 possession game. Or a 2 possession game, it would be just a 1. And the Ravens could have gone for 2 and probably, won the game. I think that's how the numbers shook out. But this field goal was so important. And that was just masterclass of Sean McDermott saying, no, we're going to take the points here. We're going to go up by 2 possessions, and they're going to have to just pull off magic to beat us now.
And our
exactly defense has been playing so well. That's the thing. You can take lower points when your defense is playing so good. And Lamar looked like the quarterback that Josh Allen has looked like in the past in some of the playoff games where he makes some of those mistakes.
Right.
And the coaching was like that of the Bills in the past, where they went away from the run early and they put it on, the quarterback's shoulders. So I think the table is completely turned in this game. And then obviously the Ravens were playing at Buffalo. That's a hard place to play at. And especially in the weather like it was. Didn't snow as bad as I thought it would. I'll tell you, the snow at Philadelphia was a lot worse than that.
But that field was still cold. It was still covered.
Hard.
I mean, you could see in that Mark Andrews attempt, and he's sliding, he's having to try to catch the ball, falling backwards. But that's kind of why I thought Buffalo would win this game. You give me what I think is the better coach, and you give me the better quarterback. Ultimately, Baltimore had more flashy plays. They had the flashier plays happen, but the mistakes. It was the mistakes, and Buffalo knowing after that first half, hey guys, we're in a good position. We just got to control this game. Don't let them get back into it. I was really impressed. Really, really impressed by Buffalo. I know you're excited, but it felt, even though Baltimore came storming back in the second half, I just never really thought Buffalo was going to lose. After the first couple drives, I was like, there's no way, because they're just not making mistakes. And that's what wins in the playoffs, sound football. It's why everybody gets mad at my team, the Chiefs. They just don't make the mistakes the other teams do. Buffalo did exactly what they needed to do. Now they're going to the AFC Championship game.
Go Bills. Well, the Commanders walked in to Detroit and they put their foot down. And not only was this a masterclass performance, this was probably one of the best rookie playoff performances of all time. Yes, I'm talking about the man of the hour, Jayden Daniels. He shocked the Lions. He took them by surprise. He made the Lions feel like little cubs, okay? That's what happened on the field. You could see the Lions regress back in and hide back into their cave. It was a scary performance, by the way. If there was a team this weekend that I don't want to face on the side of the NFC, it's probably the Commanders, not going to lie to you. Don't know how you stop Jayden Daniels. I really don't know what the script is for that. I feel like at least with the Eagles, especially with Jalen Hurts on a bum leg, you stop the run, you have a good chance at winning a football game. What do you do with the Commanders? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe you do, but question to you, and obviously the question on everybody's mind that I think we all are in agreement in, even CJ Stroud, is Jayden Daniels the best rookie quarterback of all time?
I think unequivocally yes. So
CJ Stroud said it in an interview.
He did.
He actually said it.
So I can only go based off what I've seen. I can't talk about, guys from the 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever.
Yeah, well, a whole different league back then too, man.
The only guy that really comes close to me is Andrew Luck and CJ Stroud. I think that they're the ones really in the conversation. But Jayden Daniels is doing what no other guys have really done. I've got the graphic. Let's show it. Rookie quarterbacks to make the conference championship game. I mean, he becomes the 6th. You've got Sean King for the Bucks. You've got Ben Roethlisberger for the Steelers, Joe Flacco for the Ravens, Sanchez with the Jets, Purdy with the 49ers, and now Jayden Daniels with the Commanders. Only 6 times in the NFL history that a rookie quarterback has taken his team to the conference championship, and I think all those other teams had really highly ranked defenses. The Commanders don't. As you can see, all those other teams that did not work out, they all lost. No rookie quarterback has ever taken a team to the Super Bowl his first year starting. Will Jayden Daniels be the one? It is possible. He is just, Ryan, it's just the poise. I was worried coming out of the draft because of his size, but it doesn't seem to be a problem. He'll run over people. We all knew he was a star. I believe it was Monday, that Monday night football game against the Bengals. Remember in like week 3 or something? And he was going toe-to-toe with Burrow and out-dueling him in week 3. And we were like, well, what the hell is happening? He has like 70 college starts, and I think that matters. And you just see on his face, he is always composed. He always feels like he's in control of the moment. You feel that the team trusts him. They went for it on multiple 4th downs, and he delivered every time. He was 22 for 31, 299 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 51 yards rushing. Every time the Commanders need him to make a play, he delivers. They don't have an incredible defense. They've got an average defense, so be it. But he is doing what you always say you want to see good quarterbacks do. Elevate the talent around him. The entire team plays better because they believe in him. And right now, I'm not saying he's the best quarterback. I'm saying by the numbers so far in the playoffs, he has been the best performing quarterback without question.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a team that could actually outscore the Lions. Like I didn't even think that the Commanders could do it. I thought if the Lions scored over 30 points, it would be hard for the Commanders to win this football game. And then they said, no, Ryan, you just sit back and relax because we have Jayden Daniels and he's going to get us 45 points. And then I said, yes, Daddy. Okay, that's what happened. They called me. We had this conversation. And I'm really ashamed of myself because I doubted the Commanders. And it wasn't so much I doubted Jayden Daniels because it's a rookie quarterback. Like Colin Cowherd said, they're notorious in the playoffs for not doing well, and you just can't trust them. Well, the anomaly now is Jayden Daniels, and he is now going to be that guy. On social media, like when he was 14, he posted that one day you guys are going to be saying my name. Well, buddy, you got your wish. Now you are the standard for rookie quarterbacks going forward in the playoffs. Think about that now.
I know.
For 50 years to come, probably, because this doesn't happen often.
No.
He is going to be the name that is cemented down as the best rookie quarterback of all time and in the playoffs.
Right. And to do it how he did, to where you go into the number 1 seed, the team all year that's been the big scary team in the NFC. I know the defensive injuries, and we will talk about Detroit next. We're going to dive into them because I got a lot to say. And to slay them, to look like you're not faced, to look like you belong, to look like this was your game, that Detroit was playing on your turf. It's just some of the most impressive stuff I've ever seen. He doesn't look like a kid. He does not. He looks like a 6-year vet out there. That deep throw he made to Terry McLaurin, where Terry McLaurin had his eyes covered, and just drops it in a bucket while he's getting hit. He just makes all the right moves.
Terry McLaurin has to be the happiest guy on the earth right now, having a quarterback with that talent. Him, Brown.
De'Ami Brown.
De'Ami, thank you, De'Ami Brown. And then Zach Ertz is that consistent, Mr. Consistent, right? He's
right.
Older. He's not going to shock you, wow you, but he's going to make the play when he needs to. And that's Jayden Daniels' go-to in the end zone, by the way, in case you were wondering. He looks for him first, I believe. Yes. And then also the duo of Eckler and Robinson is really good. Like Eckler can still get it done in the passing game. Robinson can still run when he needs to.
This is a solid football team.
And Jayden Daniels, the rushing ability, man, it's... we were watching Ohio State Notre Dame tonight, and we talked about Will Howard, how there's just no answer for him. If you go man, he's going to beat you. If you go zone, he's going to dice you up.
You're stuck.
And you can try to contain him, but he just finds a way to escape. Jayden Daniels is that same type of dude, and I'm so proud of him. I'm so happy for him. I really like the guy in general.
So
I just
likable.
love him off the field. If he was my quarterback, I would be super pumped that now you have that franchise guy, and the Commanders could make a run at the Super Bowl.
Ryan, he might be the best quarterback in the NFC right now. Stafford might have something to say about that. Who else are you putting up there if he plays like this?
Well, Dan Campbell and the Lions faltered. Their season is over. Nothing short of a great season, though. I mean, terrific for what they had.
One of the best seasons in franchise history.
there were a lot of injuries on this team. I know you'll probably talk about it, but really, I want to know who's to blame for this loss.
I mean, a little bit of everybody. I think ultimately you're going to put it on Jared Goff at the end of the day because he did kind of collapse. And he's been really good with the Lions, but he kind of had that performance like he had against Houston where he had so many turnovers, just so many mistakes. I got this graphic. This is the quarterback comparison between him and Jayden Daniels. He had more passing yards, obviously, but right there, Daniels, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Jared Goff, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, only 7.8 yards an attempt to Jayden Daniels, almost 10. 58% completion percentage. Daniels had over 70. He was sacked twice. Jayden Daniels had a passer rating of almost 123. Jared Goff had a passer rating of 59.7. One of the worst games Jared Goff could ever play. It's not all on him, but it got out of hand because of him. But Ryan, this is what I was trying to tell you. For a couple weeks, you were like, I'm still riding with the Lions. And I just kept saying, I don't think they can do it with the defensive injuries. I said, eventually, it's going to bite them. And you were like, I don't know. It hasn't bit them yet. I was like, I know, but I feel like it's coming. And this was why. Because if they get in a game where Jared Goff does not play perfect, they lose. Because they had no, they could allow no wiggle room for error. Even despite Jared Goff's turnovers and how disastrous the offense was at times, they scored 31 points.
Yeah.
I mean, they scored 31 points and lost because their defense gave up 45, partly due to the offense's mistakes. They just caught bad injury luck and they couldn't overcome it. They were able to beat the Vikings because Aaron Glenn was just blitzing Sam Darnold like hell. Oh, they blitzed Jayden Daniels. Didn't work for him. He was just picking them apart. And ultimately, this is what I want to run through. If you go back and watch our preview game, I said, we both picked the Lions. I said, the only way I see Washington winning this game is if Detroit just makes a bunch of mistakes and hands it to him.
Hey, again.
And I said, which could happen. And that's exactly what happened. I want to take you through this. So I wrote down all of the things that happened to Detroit here. These are the mistakes that just added up. And they lost 45-31. Leading by 4 in the red zone, they were strip sacked and it was recovered by Washington. Then you had a defensive pass interference by Kirby Joseph on 3rd and goal, which would have forced a field goal. That gave them a first down. Washington scored. After that, Jared Goff gets the ball. He's moving it. He throws a pick 6. They're down 3 with 5 minutes left in the first half, and he throws a pick 6. That was the moment it kind of felt like the game was over because that was when Jared Goff got hit and honestly might have been kind of concussed because he was off the rest of the game. They were down 3 points and about to go into halftime. They could have tied it up at halftime. Instead, it's a pick 6. You go into the half down 10. After that, you're at the Washington 29, 30 seconds before halftime, down by 10. So even after the pick 6, there's 30 seconds on the clock. You can score here. Interception in the red zone, down 10. You go into the locker room in bigger trouble. Then you get Pascal gets an unnecessary roughness call. Daniels converts on 4th down and 2 because the drive stays alive after that call. Down 10, 12 minutes left in the game at midfield. They call a reverse trick play and let Jameson Williams throw the football. Ben Johnson, congratulations on the new job, buddy. What the hell are you thinking? Calling the reverse and having the receiver throw the ball in this moment when you're trailing and you're just trying to stay in it and get some momentum, and they were moving the ball, that was when the game was over. That was a huge mistake. You're only down 10. There's 12 minutes left, and you're about to score. Like, you can still get in this ball game, and you run the trick play and let the receiver throw a pick. After that, Washington ended up converting another 4th and 2. They go up 45-28. Down 10, 30 seconds left in the red zone, another interception to ice the game. It's just every single drive, some sort of blunder by Detroit. And even with that, they only lost by a couple points, by 14 points. But as you can see, that's 7-8 mistakes I just read off. Very big mistakes. And it was enough to let Washington win the football game.
Yeah, the trick play, man, that's where I really scratched my head and was like, oh, okay, so they just don't want to win.
Right.
They've just thrown in the hat.
I genuinely couldn't believe they called that play.
And somebody said this, I don't remember if it was, I heard it maybe earlier today or yesterday, but they said, trick plays like that, they look really good when they work, but they look awful when they don't. And man, that's so true because, they run this play. If it works, we may question it, but nobody talks about it afterwards. Well, now that it was so bad that it was a turnover, and Jameson Williams should have never thrown that football.
But that's the problem with calling it, Ryan. Anytime you call a play where a guy who's not the quarterback is throwing the ball, You tell them, obviously, in practice, hey, if it's not open, just don't throw it. They're going to throw it. They're not passers. And you're only down 10 points with 12 minutes left, and you're driving. You score there, you're down 3. You get one stop, and you can take the lead.
Hand the ball off to Jahmyr Gibbs. Hey, that guy's pretty good.
It was Ben Johnson.
Hey, you don't like him? Go to the next guy, David Montgomery. Not bad either.
Yes, I know. It's just too many mistakes.
You don't like him? I got an idea. Run an end around with Jameson Williams. Tristan, how many plays do they have to go through to get to that one? You know, how many Ben Johnson over here? No. Nope. Tight end screen. Nope. A run? Nah. Run playbook over the shoulder. Oh, trick plays. Haven't thought about that yet. You know, we're down by 10. This is a great time to run it. We could get back in this game right now, but I tell you what, we're going to do a play where if we risk it all, we lose the game completely. But if we get it, then we could still have the same odds as if we just did a run play with Jahmyr Gibbs.
Exactly. And Ryan, you know, I honestly wouldn't even, if they did this in the first quarter down 10, I still would hate it, but I'd be like, okay, you know, whatever. They did it with 12 minutes left in the game. It's 12 minutes left in the game and you're down by 10. This is not trick play time. This is shotgun. Let Jared Goff cut it loose and try to make something happen. I was baffled by that decision, but they just couldn't get out of their own way. They still put up 31 points, but the defensive injuries is why Washington was able to score 45 on top of all the turnovers, all the mistakes. While I was watching it, I was shocked every time. We got to the 6th mistake. I'm like, dude, every drive there was a blunder by Detroit. Every single drive.
I was just as shocked at how bad these penalties, mistakes were as I was at how good Jayden Daniels was playing.
Yes. So when you pair them both together, it's a disaster.
Yeah, it felt like a blowout. Like, I know the score is within 15 points, but it was a blowout. This is the demise of Dan Campbell. I know that, or this is Dan Campbell's crutch, okay? Dan Campbell has these, when you were describing all the mistakes that happened, it felt like as if I was playing a Madden game, and when I get behind by like double digits, I start doing crazy things sometimes. You know, I go to that trick play playbook. I do these mistakes. You know, I force the ball where I shouldn't. But we're talking about real life NFL head coaches and offensive coordinators.
Well, but Dan Campbell doesn't call the plays. Ben Johnson does. So that's why I think it falls on him at that point.
I get that. But still, the head guy is Dan Campbell. He lets that happen, right? But
he should have heard the trick play call and nixed it immediately. Yeah.
So Dan Campbell, though, has a tendency to do these, and Ben Johnson, these off-the-wall things to try to win football games. Sometimes they work, but most of the time, they don't. Like the 4th down calls, everybody knows it. Like if it's 4th down and anything less than 8, Dan Campbell's probably going to go for it if it's on the other side of the 50-yard line. So I think that this eventually catches up to you. The defensive injuries, you cannot say enough about it. Like it really impacted. It really showed itself this game. 45 points, guys. 45 points.
Yeah, if they're healthy, they don't. And it's not just normal injuries. I mean, their entire defense was decimated.
And their top guys. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson, he could have probably stopped Jayden Daniels a couple times.
Exactly.
Now, you give me a fully healthy defense for the Lions, I still think the Commanders win this football game. I'm sorry, but I just think they outmatched him. Even with the defense fully healthy, I still think Jayden Daniels would have just been unstoppable. There's another level in him that he probably would have reached that we would have been even more shocked about. I think the Commanders had this football game in the bag no matter what. Jayden Daniels was ready to play. And the Lions, man, unfortunately, their season's over. But Dan Campbell is still one of the best coaches in the league.
Yes.
And everybody wants to play for him. He's going to be without his OC next year. That's going to look different. We don't know what it's going to look like.
It's going to be interesting to see how he manages losing maybe both coordinators, because that's really the test of a great coach. Can you constantly replace coordinators and be good? Because these guys are going to get poached. We'll see. I mean, the defensive injuries, tough break, but still a great season. And what Dan Campbell's been built there, you can't take away from him. But this is single elimination football. You know, in the playoffs, anything can happen. And they just were outplayed on Sunday, and the Commanders earned it.
Well, the Eagles defeated the Rams 28-22 in a back-and-forth game that seemed like it would really never have a conclusive winner. Like, I just felt like any given point of time, like the Rams could have won that football game, but they just couldn't do it. They couldn't overcome the Eagles and that weather. It was bad. It was really bad. And honestly, the Eagles just at the end of the game put their foot down and said, "Hey, we're just going to take time off this clock and run the ball." And that's what they did. I think when he broke that last big touchdown at the end, I think
What a
Collinsworth was like,
superstar, man.
It's got to be Saquon here.
Yep.
Like, you would be stupid. He pretty much said that. Like, you would be stupid if you don't hand it to Saquon.
I know.
And the whole conversation between Hurts and Saquon, he was like, hey, give it to me, man. I got it.
I know we're beating a dead horse, Ryan. I've never seen a running back just completely change a team like this.
Are you more impressed with Saquon's performance throughout this year or Jayden Daniels in the playoffs?
Oh, it's Barkley. I'm more impressed by Barkley.
Because it's so hard to be a running back in the league, man.
Well, it's not just a running back being great. It's just this is one of the most transformative, dominant running back seasons we've ever seen. It's truly up there with like Adrian Peterson seasons. And to completely save the Philadelphia Eagles, like what would they be without Saquon Barkley?
Well, that's a great question because Jalen Hurts had what you would describe as a lackluster performance.
He was bad. I'll go where some people won't. He wasn't good in this game. He was bad.
And I'll give him that. Like I know he was dealing with some injury, but
yeah, that happened later in the game though.
It did. And obviously the engine behind this team is Saquon. There's no doubt about it. Jalen Hurts is not the star of this team.
The defense
Everything
and Saquon
runs through Saquon offensively. So did the Eagles do enough in this game to convince you that they could win the Super Bowl?
I got to be honest.
I may even take it a step back and say win against the Commanders.
Okay, so I think they could beat the Commanders. We'll obviously preview that game. Can the Eagles win a Super Bowl? I'll be interested to see where you say. I lean no because, and I know people are going to say it's crazy, I just feel like if you get into the Super Bowl against Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, your quarterback's going to have to make some plays. Maybe not a lot. It might be like the 49ers last year, but Brock Purdy had to win that game. Brock Purdy needed to make one or two plays, and he couldn't. They had Christian McCaffrey. They had a good defense. I know Brock Purdy's getting leveled by Chris Jones. Try to throw it, and he couldn't. He couldn't make an extraordinary play. Jalen Hurts has not been good since that Super Bowl performance. He just hasn't. Yeah. They can't throw the ball, and I think you're going to see the Commanders and whoever they play if they make it to the Super Bowl. I think you're going to see those defenses just load the box and say, we are stopping Saquon. If you beat us throwing the football, congratulations, take the trophy. That's what's going to happen. They're going to say, Jalen Hurts, you beat us. And I know you can only do so much to limit Saquon. He's going to have his day, but you have to dare Jalen Hurts to beat you. And especially with the whole knee injury right now, we don't know where that's going. Maybe can a great run team and a great defense win a Super Bowl? Like the purist in me wants to say yes, but the way the league is right now, I just don't know.
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's kind of the same. The Ravens and the Eagles kind of run parallel, where if you hold their running back to under, maybe 100 yards, then you have a really good shot at winning the football game. And especially the Eagles have something that the Ravens don't. They have a much better defense. So that is something to worry about. Yeah, it is. And so I'll be interesting. I know we're going to preview the game, but I'll be interested to see how that defense is going to design to stop Jayden Daniels, because where's that answer in the script? I don't know. Again, I've said that multiple times, and if I was a D-cord going up against Jayden Daniels, I would probably have to bring 3 pair of underwear.
Well, so obviously they play each other because they're divisional rivals, so they know each other. The thing about the Eagles that makes them scary besides Saquon is the defense. Ryan, the Rams win that football game if it's not for Jalen Carter. Oh, Jalen Carter wrecks the game at the end. Matthew Stafford, that last play, he has his tight end open. I don't know if you've seen the All-22. He's running basically a whip route. The tight end goes right, puts his foot, cuts back.
Then hello, Jalen.
And hello, Jalen, who just wrecks the game. Jalen Carter is one of the most dominant defensive players. On the other side, by the way, Jared Verse. Those two guys took the game over. But even though Saquon had a dominant day, and obviously he's a big reason they won, at the end of the game, Stafford had it. Stafford was dealing. He's in the red zone. He's got the guy. And Jalen Carter single-handedly saved the season for the Eagles. If they win the Super Bowl, it's going to be because of Carter. He will have to make big plays in big moments.
Move over Jalen Hurts. There's another Jalen at the Eagles that's much better than you.
Oh, they trust him a lot more than they trust Jalen Hurts.
The Kansas City Chiefs do what the Kansas City Chiefs always managed to do, for the most part, in the playoffs under the Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid legacy. It's continuing to build. Travis Kelce's also in the mix. He tends to play good in the playoffs, in case anybody forgot. That guy can still play football. The way that they're able to not use him throughout the year, or at least him not play to his top-level performance, it's almost like they reserve him. It's almost like he's on the reserve list, and he just pops up when they need him to. And man, him in playoff time is completely different than him the rest of the season. It's like Noah Gray all season long, and then you get into the playoffs, and hello, Travis Kelce.
He's only got so many like snaps left in him, and he saves them for the biggest moments.
That's exactly right. I don't care what anybody says; it has to be.
I think he would acknowledge that.
So obviously, they beat the Texans 23-14. The Chiefs never managed to score really high points. Like that's just not who they are. They chew up the clock. They make you wish you were never there.
They win ball games.
Yeah. And they win football games. And then they send you packing. So did this performance, did it worry you, or are you happy with it?
So I would say neither. Didn't worry me. I'm not happy with it. I'll say it kind of looked like how I thought it would look. I do think they looked a little rusty at the beginning. I think they'll say that's not. They'll say it's just a good defense. That's true. But it felt like the 24 days off might have not been great. Kind of, boring game. We'll talk about the controversy because it's the Chiefs, God forbid. But the Chiefs just did what they always do. They played clean football and they let the other team beat themselves. And Patrick Mahomes made a couple big plays. I mean, Kelce had 100-something yards. He went off. Patrick Mahomes gets hit, is falling forward, literally horizontal to the ground, and throws a dart to Travis Kelce for a touchdown. And we don't even react. Like the commentators are like, touchdown. Kansas City, because we see him do it all the time. It's like no one else does what this guy does. He's falling forward like Michael Jackson in a music video, about to hit the ground, and says, here, take the touchdown, and it's a perfect pass. He just delivers in every big moment. On the other side, the Chiefs defense came to play. Karlaftis had himself a day. Chris Jones, with the playoffs are here. These guys know how to win. I think they had 8 sacks. They completely wrecked CJ Stroud. They just don't make mistakes, and they win all of the important moments. And the Houston special teams made mistakes. D'Amico Ryans made mistakes. They were outcoached. They were outplayed. And yeah, they gave a good effort, but this was just a typical Chiefs performance. This is kind of what I expected going into the game. Yeah, I wish they would have looked amazing and put up 40, but I didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah, and we both even said it because we were at the game where Tank Dell got injured this year, and that was a huge part of their offense. And without him, it really showed their weak links all over. And like you said, it was a complete outcoaching. It couldn't have been any more obvious. The Chiefs know how to control clock. They know how to win football games. And the Texans are the new kids on the block. And the Chiefs are just that bully. Now, I know this makes you hot. And I'm going to say my piece about it before you get to say yours.
That's probably best. Because if you don't go now, you probably won't get a chance.
That probably not. The segment will be over. The referee. And it gets highlighted in the Chiefs game more so than any other football game.
Okay, so you acknowledge that at least.
Well, the conversation gets highlighted. But this is a huge problem throughout the league. And the point I brought up to you, and you initially got angry, which I know you'll say your piece about it, but there were some calls.
I didn't get angry with you.
No, just at the subject. There were some calls that were blatantly missed or called based off of a non-call. And the one that's highlighted the most, I believe, in this game is when Patrick Mahomes is sliding down and the two guys pretty much collide into each other, the two defenders. They don't even hit Patrick, and they call a roughing the passer. Or roughing the quarterback, however they want to phrase that, since he was a running quarterback at the time. The problem is, and this is league-wide, this is not a Chiefs problem, so I'm with you on that. Like, let's leave the Chiefs out of it. We should be able to, if these penalties are going to cost us 15 yards on all of these penalties, and the quarterback's going to be so protected, and the refs are flag happy, we need to be able to review these calls on these big-time, especially in these big-time games,
Amen.
And say, hey, you made a mistake, ref. The NBA does it. Why can't we do it? We being the NFL, like I'm part of it. Why can't the NFL do it? There is no reason they couldn't.
They absolutely could do it. They do it at times. They do what they call expedited reviews on certain plays.
And the NFL already, they have quick football games. It's not like college football. The halftimes are short. The plays are fast. Like the NFL is not like a super long event. They could have time to review these big time penalties. And one of the two things need to happen. They need to not call every one of them and let them play football, or they need to be able to review those big calls. Because here's the problem, and this is my point, and I'll kick it to you. These penalties where it may not have mattered as much like in this particular game because the Chiefs would have won no matter what. This was just kind of icing on the cake for them. There's games where it does matter, and games are decided sometimes on these penalties. And that's where it's such a game-altering event that if it's going to be that serious and that many yards, like the yardage, by the way, like even a holding is like a 10-yard penalty. And it's like,
I know.
What are we doing? And some of the holding calls it wasn't even holding. I think was it the Bills game?
It was the Bills game.
Yeah, where there was a hold, and it's like, no, that's a good block. Is
also,
what that is.
One happened in the Chiefs game. I think the right guard got called for a hold that wasn't a hold on a play that wiped out 20, a Kelsey play.
And I'm not saying you have to review every single one of these, but or maybe even give maybe that could be in the challenge.
Maybe all personal foul penalty, maybe all 15-yard penalties should be reviewed upstairs.
Maybe that's
15-yard penalties. That's a big deal.
Or the coach, after seeing it on the jumbotron, could challenge the play.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that. Like
challenge a penalty.
You get like a super challenge, like the XFL did, or whatever it's called now. Each coach gets a super challenge where they can challenge anything one time in the game. Like even if it's something that's non-challengeable. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, even that, and I don't even if we gave them that, we don't even have to review the penalties.
And that's why that would solve so much, because then it's on you. It's like, well, you got to throw the challenge flag.
And surely we will, I hope the NFL progresses enough to understand that we need something like that in the league, because these refs have been put into a pigeonhole where they're afraid not to call it, but then they're afraid to call it, and they would rather just go ahead and call it instead of missing the call.
Well, also,
but now the problem is they're calling it and missing the call that they called.
But you can't expect 6 people standing on the field to see or not see everything. They're going to miss things. And that's why I would say I actually kind of agree with everything you said there. What bothers me about it, so generally, I agree. I don't like, me. I am a football purist. I'm a defensive football guy. I like low-scoring physical football games. I don't like the whole protect the quarterback crap. I really don't. I understand the league wanting to protect them because they are their stars. Like you don't want Mahomes and Allen to get knocked out in the divisional round and then have a Super Bowl. Like, okay, I get that.
Well, and all the money goes away. The ratings go way down. And
but in that case, so I'm fine with it, but we shouldn't have the penalties when there's not one.
Right.
Here's what gets on my nerves, just to say my piece. It happened with the Patriots too. Because the Chiefs are the dynasty and they're hated, which it's weird to me that people hate dynasties. I always have liked dynasties. I like seeing greatness. I
liked it with Brady.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I like seeing teams defy the odds. So they look for every penalty. And every Chiefs game, a lot of them are nationally televised, immediately on Twitter, every single play call is scrutinized. If you scrutinize every single game, you're going to find calls. The Bills got a defensive pass interference call when the receiver literally tackled the defender. He grabbed the defender, threw him down, and it was a DPI that gave him the ball in the red zone. Is anyone on Twitter bitching about that? Absolutely not. 2 weeks ago, the referee came to the sidelines and sat with Josh Allen and talked to him and patted him on the head. If that happened to Mahomes, could you imagine what Twitter would be like if a referee came to the sidelines while Patrick Mahomes was sitting on the bench and was patting him on the head? It would explode. And I'm not taking shots at Josh Allen. I'm just saying it is so clear and obvious that people are just looking at Chiefs games and overanalyzing it and throwing every back. And even I love Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, but God, they cried about it for a fucking hour. For a fucking hour. I'm like, dude, did the refs, fumble the football? Did the refs allow 8 sacks? Did the refs go for it on 4th and 10 and snap the ball right before a delay of game and get sacked? No, they didn't do all of that. Everyone knows that the refs didn't affect the outcome of this game. But I do hate just the microscope the Chiefs are under as if they get all the calls. Because even when you look at the data, they don't. They're one of the most penalized teams over the past 18 years and the most crucial penalties. Regarding the calls individually, and then I'll go to something I think you'll actually agree with me on. The first call, where I think it was Will Anderson that looked like it hit him in the head, that from the ref's view is a penalty. And I don't care what anybody says. That penalty, they've been calling that all year. They call that every single game. I don't like it. I wish they didn't. But everyone acting as if that was egregious, that's just an NFL penalty now. It's stupid. I hate it. I wish we would take it out of the game. That is a penalty on any quarterback in any week. And y'all can lie and say it's not. It just is. I've watched the football games all season. The second one, which I think is the more controversial one, where the two defenders hit each other while Mahomes is sliding. Obviously, not a penalty. However, they did lower their shoulder and try to hit him during the slide. Like, even though they didn't hit him, they initiated and were trying to hit him while he was sliding. One of them was Al-Shaair, who I think we can just say at this point is a dirty player. I get it. No, it shouldn't have been a penalty, but those players shouldn't have put themselves in that position because they went to try and hit him late. I'm sorry, that's just true. That's just what happened. So the two egregious penalties aren't even like so absurdly egregious. Like Kansas City's gotten way more egregious breaks than those two.
The first one, I agree with you. That's been a penalty all year long, and we've talked about it before. But the second one, the problem is, it's like, what do you expect these guys to do?
I agree. I agree completely.
We're talking about 300-pound guys running full force, and the quarterback just decides to, bloop, just instantly, like, just go down. And Mahomes is really good about waiting on that. Mahomes knows how to draw penalties. He's good at it. He's like LeBron drawing fouls, like they know how to do it. Mahomes did it even going to the sideline. He tried to flop.
That's what I want to talk about. That's actually, to me, if you're going to be mad about that game about anything, that's what I think you could be mad about. I don't like that Patrick did that. I genuinely dislike it. Your boy, he flops a lot. I don't like flopping. However, I can't really blame the competitors for trying to find an edge. It's like angle shooting in poker, where you pretend you're going to throw your chips in, but you don't. It's considered dirty. A lot of tournaments consider it illegal, but a lot of places don't. It's like, it's not illegal, but it's like a gentleman's agreement. In a sport, at the highest level, they're going to find any odds they can. You can't, even though, and hey, trust me, I'm a Chiefs fan. I hated that Mahomes did that. I strongly, strongly disliked that. But it's not on Mahomes to fix it. It's on the league. The players are going to exploit the rules. But out of all the things, we're talking about the two hits or non-hits, whatever you want to call it. That was the most egregious one because Mahomes slowed up to let him push him, and then he flopped. I hate that. I absolutely hate flopping. I feel like that's something the league should address more so than the other two. The other two, I think everyone's kind of being crybaby bitches about. The flopping on the sidelines bothered me.
The first penalty, I agree with you. The second one, this is my problem with it, and then we can wrap this up.
No, it's a good discussion to have.
It's a bang-bang play. I understand that the ref saw it. They saw shoulders lowered, and they called the penalty, right? What I don't like is if the refs saw a ball slip out of somebody's arms during a tackle, and they can't tell if the knees are down or not, but they called the fumble on the field.
Right.
Then they go back and review it.
Yes.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
And there's no reason we shouldn't be able to review personal foul penalties.
No reason. And there can be rules and stuff put in place. I'm like, we're not going to sit here and review every penalty, guys. Like, with that, I would stop watching the NFL if that happened.
Of course. But there's not that many personal foul penalties in a game.
No. Or like you said, have that super challenge or whatever you want to call it.
There are easy ways to fix this problem.
Yeah, there is. And
so we're in agreement that there is a problem with the whole officiating. I actually don't think it's been as bad as it has been in years past, but I just get aggravated when people act like it just happens in the Chiefs games and Mahomes is the same. Guys, the league doesn't care what teams, they're like, oh, Kansas City's the money maker. Kansas City's been bad for 30 years. Kansas City's not a big market. It's just, we've been to Kansas City. It doesn't feel like New York City. It feels like Birmingham, just nicer and bigger. They don't care who makes the Super Bowl. The league makes money regardless. So the whole rig-in, they love Mahomes. They do protect quarterbacks, and that's why we have these rules. But the Chiefs do not get preferential treatment. They're just put under a microscope. I'm with you, though. The fact that we can't review these penalties when they're like so blatantly not a penalty. Like the first one, I think you can argue. The second one, what are we doing? Why are we deciding games that way? But it's a difficult line to walk, but I feel like a multi-billion-dollar league should be able to figure it out.
The Commanders are traveling to Philadelphia this weekend to play the game of all games, to get you into the game of all games. They meet for the third time this year, divisional opponents and rivals. And I know the answer to this because we've kind of alluded to it, but can Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders pull off this upset? And if they can, how do they do it? What's the game script?
Okay, so I'm not sure what the game script is going to be offensively. I'll say this. I think they can pull off the upset. Do you think they can?
Yes.
Okay. So they're 1-1 in the regular season. Now, the time the Commanders beat them, that was when Jalen Hurts got hurt and Kenny Pickett came in. But, Jalen Hurts might be hurt this game. We'll talk about that in a second. Just looking at it from the Commanders' point of view, you're going to have to try to nullify Saquon Barkley. I don't know. I just don't know if the Commanders' defense, how much they can slow him down. I think they're going to have to do what I said earlier. You've got to just stack the box and say, if Jalen Hurts beats us throwing, then we can sleep at night. That's what I would do. I would say, if Jalen Hurts beats us throwing 60-yard bombs to A.J. Brown and has 250 passing yards, and that's how we lose, I can sleep fine. If I go to bed because Saquon Barkley had 230 and 2 touchdowns and that's how we lost, I couldn't live with myself. I am selling out to stop Saquon Barkley. Even with selling out, can the Commanders do that? I don't know if they'll be able to, but that's got to be the game plan.
Yeah, I'm going to give some deep analysis here on both sides of the ball. The game script to win. If you're the Commanders, you stop Saquon and you force Jalen to throw it. If you're the Eagles, you find a way to stop Jayden Daniels. That's the matchup, folks. You heard it here first. Like this, that is what you have to do on either side of the ball. That is number one. And throughout the entire film watching this week, the defenses on both teams, one needs to be looking at Daniels, one needs to be looking at Barkley and how to stop him. And I think everything else is second. Because I can sleep at night if I say, you know what, I held Barkley to under 100 yards, and yeah, the Eagles won, and Jalen Hurts was able to pull it out and throw a 50-50 ball to A.J. Brown, and he came down with it, or Devontae Smith beat us on a post route, in the slot.
But Jalen Hurts hasn't done that in 6 weeks. So
I can handle that. What I can't handle is saying, we covered all the receivers, but Barkley ran down our throat, controlled the time of possession, and Jayden Daniels didn't get the chance to have the ball.
Right.
That's what I can't deal with. So, yeah, just like with the Bills, like I said last week, you got to sell out for Derrick Henry. That's what they did. It worked. It was successful, and it allowed the Bills to control the clock, control the entire football game. If the Commanders want to win, they have to contain Saquon Barkley, send the house, almost every time, run man in the bag, maybe put one high safety. I don't care what you have to do. Do that to stop Barkley. Let Hurts play. And honestly, like you said, Hurts may be hurt.
Yeah, I mean, the knee issue is something to worry about. He seemed like he didn't want to talk about it. Even if he's not, he hasn't been playing great. The matchup in this game, though, I don't think the Commanders are going to be able to stop Barkley that much. I really don't.
Yeah, but you have to try.
You have to try. I understand that. And I agree. You sell out to it. I think the real matchup to watch is Commanders offense and Eagles defense. That's it. How much can the Eagles defense neutralize and limit Jayden Daniels? If you tell me Jayden Daniels scores 30, I think they win the football game. I think you've got to hold the Commanders under 24. So can Jalen Carter wreck the game? Can Zach Bond wreck the game? And they have really talented corners. I mean, they're just so talented everywhere. You've got Jalen Carter, who's a wrecking ball in the middle, probably already the best nose tackle in the league right now. You've got Zach Bond, who's a special teams guy turned all-pro edge rusher, who's making a play every time you look up. You've got Nakobe Dean, another Georgia player like Carter, who's just constantly... They have so many players on defense that can literally wreck the game. So Jayden Daniels has to perform at the highest level. The good thing is he's played this team twice. He knows how to face them. These teams know each other. They have the book on each other. They understand what each other are doing. I think coaching advantage actually goes to the Commanders. I like Dan Quinn more than Sirianni. I like the Vic Fangio as a coordinator better than anybody, but I like Kingsbury better than Kellen Moore. This is a great matchup. I just think in order to win, I don't know how much the Commanders defense is going to be able to do. Jayden Daniels is going to have to pull out the cape. If they want to make the Super Bowl, he has to put the cape on and carry the team past this dominant Eagles defense. It comes down to that for me. Whatever Barkley does, he's going to do. Can Daniels put up 30 points? I don't know. Right now, as we stand, who do you think wins this football game?
Give me the Washington Commanders to win this football game. Jayden Daniels is going to be the first rookie to make it to the Super Bowl.
You think the Commanders actually get it done?
I do, man. They have the momentum going into this football game. They really do. I think everything is scripted right for them to win this. I think Jalen Hurts the injury is really going to be a big factor in this football game. And I just honestly think that they're not going to have an answer for Jayden Daniels. It's hard. I've been saying it all show long. I don't know what the fix is, but the guy playing this hot right now is almost impossible to stop.
I understand. And I'm leaning that way, but when I just looked, the 2 games they played this year, Saquon Barkley had 150 rushing yards in both. Now,
wow.
The second time Jayden Daniels went off, 300 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks, they won 36-33. The first game is when I think Daniels' ribs were still bothering him. It was in that portion of the season where he had that
18 points.
They only scored. It was 26-18. The 26-18, 36-33. That kind of goes with my theory. I think if the Commanders get over 30, they win. I want to pick the Commanders. I really do, but I'm just so worried about that defense of the Eagles. See, this is where I'm torn because it's like my football, beliefs clashing with each other. I feel like run games and defense wins championships, but I also feel like you have to have a star quarterback at the end of the season to win it. Man, I'm just so conflicted. I was going to pick Commanders all night until now that I'm on the spot.
Don't get cold feet. Just say it.
I think, screw it. Okay, give me the Commanders. I'll go with the kid. I'm going to stick to the plan that you have to play better. The quarterback has to make plays. If the Eagles win, it won't be just because of Saquon Barkley. It'll be a dominant defensive performance or Jalen Hurts showing up.
The best thing that could happen for the Commanders is they get up 2 scores early in the football game, and they go away from the run with Saquon. And that's if I'm the Commanders, I fight tooth and nail to get up 2 scores.
You got to come out. The Commanders can't ease into it. You got to come out swinging, throwing haymakers.
Yep.
I love that.
I hope we see a 60-yard pass to Terry McLaurin on like the 5th play in the series.
No,
that's
I love that. That's a great point. That's almost got to be the plan.
Has to be.
All right. One of these teams is going to the Super Bowl.
And I really don't want to face either one of them.
Going to be scary.
Well, for the 4th time, count them 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be the 4th time our teams have met in the playoffs. An instant classic almost every time. The 13-second game, the coin toss, everything is pointing to a terrific game on Sunday between the Bills and the Chiefs. We do have to go to Kansas City. That does worry me. It's a hard stadium to play in. I've been there enough. I know it is difficult to be an opposing team at Arrowhead. I have a couple of questions. We have a couple in the show script, and one is, what is a path to victory
just
for
talking
Kansas
matchup.
City?
Yeah.
But I really want to know, because has Kansas City played a team as talented and as well-rounded as Buffalo all year long?
Yeah, they did. On November 17th, they played Buffalo in Buffalo. Uh-huh.
Aside from that game, which they lost, the only loss of the season for Kansas City, had they played another team that even comes close to matching up to the Bills?
I think so. I mean, they played the Ravens in week 1. I mean, I actually think the Ravens are a better roster than the Bills. I mean, the roster of the Bills isn't that impressive. That's kind of the whole point of like why people were picking against them this preseason. So
yeah, but it's the well-roundedness of the team. It's everything's just jiving for them at this moment.
I mean, you can't make the conference championship game and say, oh, you haven't played. Like, I mean, they've kind of played everybody in front of them.
Right. But I'm just saying, this is now this is where, obviously, this is what it's designed to do, right? The 2 best teams in this conference are going to battle it out. And I guess, are you worried? Obviously, I know we both are a little worried because anytime our teams play each other, we don't know who's going to win. And you guys just own us in the playoffs. That's just how it is. And we own you in the regular season. That's how it's been for so long. But does it just feel like there's something about Buffalo that this year it's going to be different to you? And then also, what do you do as the Chiefs to game plan around that?
To the first point, yes, there is something that feels different about Buffalo. You can go back to our conversation talking about the Bills-Ravens game. It's really the fact that they're finally doing what we've been wanting them to do, which is not make Josh Allen carry the team. He has cut down the turnovers. They have a run game. They have a defense. Sean McDermott's coaching really well. They're not making mistakes. They're not giving you the game. They're just controlling the football game, and they're dictating the way the game plays out. Are they going to be able to do that in Arrowhead? I don't know. As you could say, now they've played each other more times, but just in the Mahomes-Allen era, there have been 3 chips. In 2021, that was the one Kansas City won in the AFC Championship game, kind of going away, 38-24. Then in 2022, the divisional round, the 13-second game, Chiefs won 42-36. And then, of course, last year in Buffalo, where the Chiefs won at 27-24 after Bass was wide right at the end of the game. This is kind of Josh Allen's moment. Can he do it? Because it seems like two things colliding. It seems like Josh Allen can't get past the Bills, can't get past the Chiefs in the playoffs, and no team's ever gone for the three-peat. And they're colliding together, and one of them is going to come out on top. I'm happy that one of our teams is going to the Super Bowl. That's cool. That's fun. I find it hard to bet against Mahomes. Until I see it, I just can't pick against Mahomes in a playoff game. But I'm so worried. I am so worried because I don't feel like Josh Allen is phased at all. I would have much rather played the Ravens. Josh Allen knows how to play the Chiefs. I think he's going to have a dominant day. I think he's going to run all over them. I don't know what the Bills' defense is going to be able to do. We'll see how much they can neutralize the Chiefs. I don't know. Chiefs have a really good run defense. They should be able to hold James Cook in, but I think it's going to come down to which quarterback makes the bigger plays at the end of the game. And that's what this game should come down to. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more, man. And I'm scared about it too.
How are you feeling as a Bills fan? Like if you're just looking at it, because we can take our time on this. This only happens once a year if we're lucky. How do you think they have to approach it? What do you think the odds are? Like, what's your just general vibe of it as a Buffalo fan?
I mean, all of it goes out the window. There's no data. I don't care about the data. Put it that way. Because the data says that the Chiefs should win this football game because it's happened every time. So if you go on odds, the odds say that Chiefs will win. However, I do feel like there's just something in the air in Buffalo that they're fighting with a different passion behind them. It's a little bit different. Just the atmosphere is a little bit different. They've adjusted to each other. And what I really loved about this Ravens game that Buffalo played is that Josh Allen didn't have to try hard, So he's got all that pent up inside him. He's ready to go. He's like, hey, if it needs to be put on my back, buddy, I got it. But we cannot do what we've done before where we start out the game that way. I hope personally, this is a low scoring game. The Bills control the clock and we beat you guys by a touchdown. That's how, if I could write a script for it, that's how it would go. It's, we stop you guys, we cover up Kelsey, maybe we get Mahomes to make a turnover. I honestly, I think it could come down to a turnover too. I could see that happening. I could not necessarily even from the quarterbacks, the running backs fumbling or whatever it may be. Yeah. I could see a turnover really altering this game and being the deciding factor on who wins. We've seen it before where it's a shootout, right? The 13-second game. It was whoever got the ball last, I think, was going to win that football game. And that's what happened. So I loved that game, but my stress and anxiety can't take that again. So that's why I'm hoping, if I can have an ideal game, we get up, by 2 touchdowns, we let you guys back in it. You get within a touchdown. We get the ball last. We drive downfield, take our time, hit 2 knees, we're out. That's how I hope it goes.
So you kind of how it went earlier this year. I mean, the score was somewhat what was it, 30-21? But it felt like in the third quarter that game was over. Like the Bills just controlled it.
Yeah, and the Bills have had several games this year where they've just taken the life out of the team, their opposing team, early in the third quarter or even midway through, and it feels like the game's over. Even though the score may get close toward the end, it just feels like the Bills could turn it on at any moment and do that extra thing if they needed to. But they usually don't have to, and I hope it goes that way this time. But I don't think that's feeling. I've held up a sign before that said Mahomes is my daddy. I don't want to do that again.
If you're Buffalo, you have to somehow manage the game to where you end the game with the ball. And that's even with the 13 seconds, you scored 13 seconds too quick. Now, we can talk about the way the defense handled that afterwards. Sure. If you give Mahomes the football at the end of the game, down 1 score, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. If Mahomes gets the football with 3 seconds left, down 8, I'm thinking Chiefs are winning the football game. He just finds a way to do it. So I want to see Buffalo manage the game, put themselves in a position to where, I don't want to see it, but that's what I would want to see if I was a Buffalo fan, to where they don't have to rely on stopping last-minute heroics. I don't think they're going to be intimidated by Arrowhead. I do think it's going to be way different from the earlier game because that was in Buffalo, and Kansas City didn't have a lot of their players. Now they've got Hollywood Brown. They've got Hopkins more into the offense, Xavier Worthy feeling more comfortable. I am worried about Kansas City's run game. Isaiah Pacheco just has not been the same since the injury. You really can't count on him. I want to see Kareem Hunt get more touches than Pacheco. I think he's going to be crucial. The Bills, we'll see what James Cook can do against this run defense, because if Kansas City is able to stop and neutralize the run early and often, that's going to put the Bills in the box where they're going to have to use Josh Allen. Now, earlier in the season, James Cook only got 9 carries for 20 yards, and they still won the football game. Josh Allen threw it 40 times in that game. I don't think that's going to be an answer. He threw it 40 times. Patrick Mahomes threw it 33, but Patrick Mahomes had 2 picks in that game. I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think if the quarterbacks get into a throwing contest, I'm probably leaning Patrick Mahomes. I think the Bills need to play a complete football game to win and just limit the mistakes.
You had said the Commanders preview that if the Commanders score over 30 points, then isn't that what you said? If they scored,
I said I think if the Commanders score over 30 points, they win the football game. Yeah.
I think the Chiefs need to score 30 points to win the football game.
Oh, interesting. I'm kind of the opposite.
And I think that's one of their kryptonites is that the Chiefs rarely get over 30 points. It's not common. They play these long drives and these methodical football. And I'm just looking at the score before, it was 30 to 21. So they won by 9 points. Bills got over 30 points. The Bills have gotten over 30 points in a lot of their football games, even in some of their losses. So I think the Bills have maybe a higher powered offense. I think what it may come down to is what Spag's going to do to slow it down, because I think if the Bills get over 30 points, that could be their key to success here, because I don't know if the Chiefs could do what it takes. I know they could, but like in this whole...
No, I agree.
We're just talking about the football game, right? I don't know if the Chiefs could do what it takes to get over that hump and get, over 30 points to kind of match that offense of the Bills.
No, I agree. Like if you said, hey, if you told me right now, hey, Buffalo is going to score 32,
35.
You're going to have to score 34 to win. I'd be like, oh, I just don't know. Like, because that's not what the Kansas City Chiefs do anymore. This is not the Chiefs of 2018. If this gets into a 30-point shootout, yeah, Buffalo's equipped to win it. If this stays into the 20s, if we enter the fourth quarter, tied at 17 or 20-17, that's kind of going the way Kansas City goes. And it does feel like this might be one of those games that just comes down to the mistakes. Like which team makes a mistake? And like you said, not even the quarterbacks. Who fumbles? And also watch the special teams. So many times, no one ever talks about it. Special teams change football games. The Texans started off with a bad special teams fumble that gave the Chiefs the ball. The Chiefs win a bunch of playoff games because of special teams. Keep an eye on that, because that could be kind of the difference in the football game. I'm really excited because I think regardless of how the game plays out, when it gets into the third and fourth quarter and you feel it, because we've been there live, it feels different. A playoff is different. The regular season is not the same. Patrick Mahomes and that entire team finds another gear in the playoffs. They just do. He is not going to go down easy. He is not going to give it to you. But Josh Allen's not either. Josh Allen does not wilter under the lights. This is going to be a showdown for the ages. And it feels like Josh Allen, just like we said last year, but it does. It's like, this is a moment, man. And it feels right. As a Bills fan, aren't you kind of glad it's the Chiefs? Like, you don't want to win a Super Bowl without beating Mahomes. It's not, if you won a Super Bowl and someone else knocked off Mahomes, it wouldn't be the same.
Asterisk by it.
Exactly.
You just always have the asterisk.
Exactly.
Yeah, I made the Super Bowl in the Tom Brady run. Oh, did you beat the Patriots again? No,
that was the year they missed it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I agree, man. I'm super excited. I'm terrified. I just hope the moment doesn't get to Allen's head. I would love it'd be halftime and the Bills are up, 28-3. Like, I would absolutely love that. But we both know that that's not how it's going to go. And the game is really going to be decided starting about midway through the third, all the way to the very end. That's when the big game starts, in my opinion. That's how it always is when these two teams battle each other most of the time. I don't think there's any scenario where there's a blowout. I hope there is. I hope the Bills just blow out the Chiefs.
I would be shocked if it was a blowout either way.
Oh, yeah, me too. I would be utterly amazed that either team, got up 3 touchdowns on one or the other. It's going to be a terrific game. It's already an instant classic. I've seen people talk about it ad nauseum. I can't put into words how excited I am that the Bills have the opportunity to hit the Super Bowl again. It's been a few years. It's here again.
Been a few years. It's been like 30 or something crazy.
No, since they've had opportunity to hit the Super Bowl.
Oh, since they've been in the AFC Championship game. Yeah, 2021.
Yeah. So it's exciting for me as a Bills fan, the whole Bills Mafia. I know we're all pumped. Something about it just feels like it's their year. I don't want to jinx it because Patrick Mahomes, So
it also feels like this might kind of is the Super Bowl. I'm not saying the NFC team can't win the Super Bowl. I think whoever wins this game is going to be favored in the Super Bowl. So there's a lot on the line. Not that the NFC team couldn't win it. Anything can happen in single elimination, but this game kind of feels like a legacy game for both guys. Mahomes wants that three-peat to separate himself from Brady. Josh wants to prove I can beat him. I can deliver. I can get that ring. Lamar can have his MVPs. I'm going to go lift the Lombardi. I throw it to you right now, Ryan. Obviously, use your Bills fan hat, but genuinely, objectively, best you can. Just if you could try to separate yourself, how do you feel the game turns out? What is your prediction? Who do you think wins the football game? Genuinely.
I think the Buffalo Bills win 31-28.
I think that's a really good prediction. So, this is me being very honest, more honest than I want to be. If it was not for just Mahomes and the ability to him having something I can't quantify, I would pick the Bills. I agree with you. It feels like there's something about the Bills. It feels like this might be the year. It feels like things are going right. But we've kind of seen Mahomes tear down other teams in that situation. It's kind of Brady-esque, as where everything's going right. This is going to be the time. And you run in and to the beast. And it's not just Mahomes, it's Andy Reid. I think Buffalo is the better football team. I really do. And if I wasn't a Chiefs fan, I would probably pick Buffalo. I would not be shocked at all if they win the football game. However, just like we had last year, I give you the pass because this is your team, so you'll allow it. I am not and will never pick against Patrick Mahomes in a playoff game. Not saying he's never going to lose a playoff game again. He could lose this one. But until I see him do it, the dude comes through every single time. I'm going to give my prediction that he comes through again and the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl for their chance to three-peat. If they don't, then it will be well earned by the Bills, and I will hope that they win the Super Bowl. I'm really excited. I hope whoever wins this game wins the Super Bowl because one of us could do it. I've experienced it. Obviously, I want my team to win. It would be really cool for the Bills to win Super Bowl, and you could have that feeling.
All right, guys, the divisional weekend is in the books. We've talked about it. We've previewed the next week, the conference championships, the Eagles, the Commanders, the Bills, the Chiefs. It's going to be a wild Sunday of football. I know everybody that's a football fan is going to be glued to their TV. Tristan, the last question I ask you to end the show, what team, the Chiefs make it. The Chiefs make the Super Bowl. What team are you most scared to see on the other side of that ball?
Oh, Philly because of the defense. Not because of Jalen Hurts. I am concerned about the Chiefs' offensive line having to go up against Jalen Carter and Zach Bond and N'Kobe Dean and all those guys. If it's the Chiefs Commanders, okay, fine. And we get outdueled, I could live with that. If we go against the Eagles, I would still pick them to win because I'm picking the better quarterback. That's just kind of my playoff philosophy. I pick the better quarterback. Tends to go right for you if you do that. I would be really scared about facing that Eagles pass rush. What about you?
Yeah, I was going to say the Commanders, but when you break it down that way, I would rather lose in a shootout than I would be decimated by the line. However, I think that Allen could probably give them a harder time than almost any other quarterback has all year with his ability to escape the pocket and do magical things. But I think I would still side with you, especially with a couple weeks in between, the games. I think I'd be most afraid to face that Philly defense, man. It is scary because if that defense shuts you down and the Eagles are able to run the ball down your throat constantly, game's over.
And that usually, what do we say these playoff games always come down to? Where do we say they're winning? Where they're won and lost?
The trenches.
That's right. The trenches win the playoff games. We saw it in the Texans-Chiefs game. It was the Chiefs' defensive line. The Chiefs' offensive line isn't spectacular. It's their weak link. That worries me as these playoffs go along.
We saw it in the Eagles-Rams game.
Absolutely. Yeah, that Jalen Carter won the football game. So that's why if you were picking teams just based on the trenches, you would go Eagles-Chiefs. I think, although I will say this, Buffalo's offensive line is incredibly underrated. They're one of the best offensive lines in the league. That's kind of been their Achilles heel for multiple years. They finally fixed it. So we'll see, man. I'm so excited. We cover the whole season. It comes down to this. Thank you all for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends about it, bringing comedy and humor and levity back to football conversation. We were trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before kickoff of next season. Please help us get there. Ryan, good luck to your Buffalo Bills. I'm so excited to see our teams face off in the playoffs. We will be back Sunday night. You'll see videos on Monday. And when we come back, we will know who will be playing for the Super Bowl. This is the best time of the year. I am so freaking excited and nervous. Have a safe week, everyone. We'll see you then. Enjoy some football.
Go Bills.
Goodbye.